Hey, everybody, and welcome to yet another installment of Boggy Update. I am one of your hosts, Christopher Saul, and that beautiful man over there is Paul Sjoberg of all fame, multiple hometown local boy fame, IT fame,
We're gonna have to work
real
on
estate fame.
We're gonna have to work on our intros.
I'm doing what I can over here. I'm not perfect, all right? That's my weakness. That's my
okay.
Achilles heel.
None of us are perfect, sir.
Anyway, this week we're going to cover some controversial stuff and some other stuff that you're going to want to know as we go through this week. This week's stories include talking about the LGBTQ Pride Day that's going to take place on June 1st and the controversy over the community center acquisition for that event. Live Oak Fiber has finished up a decent part of its rollout to put fiber cable down into the ground below us so that faster internet can become available, or at least competition. Eglin Federal Credit Union launched a partnership with the school district to teach kids about financial literacy. The accused Mike Ledford killer was in court for hearing, and police chief announced a anti-speeding campaign and dropped some knowledge that he wants Eglin Air Force Base to quit it with the ID checks. And finally, we'll have some stuff about a savage race, frankly, and talk about the big topic and what's coming up in your neck of the woods this week. Thanks, Al Roker, including a decision on Florida Poly's new president, which could have implications here, a audit result for Niceville, which I'll tell you a little bit about, and the vendor fair at Third Planet that's taking place this weekend, where you can see me and probably him. Anyway, let's run right into it. Paul, we had a lot of comments and thoughts and shared opinions about the LGBTQ group PFLAG Niceville getting or trying to get the Niceville Community Center. A story that I'm going to release later today, Monday. You're going to find out that PFLAG was able to negotiate with the city of Niceville to get the community center rented out for the June the 1st date. A lot of people talked on Tuesday, mostly in the negative, with the exception of City Councilman Saul and Paul, who stood strong by himself and made his points clearly and ultimately won the day. What'd you think about all that?
Well, I mean, I think it was a good, healthy debate, but in the grand scheme of things, it was sort of like, people aren't going to like it, but it's sort of like a non-story. What do you want the city council to do? These decisions have already been made at the federal level. You know, they're going to be allowed to use the community center as long as they stay within some guardrails and rules, of which I don't think will ever be made public unless, Christopher, you go dig them up or somebody tells you about them. So, you know, I think they'll get to rent the community center and life will go on. In regards to the event itself, and I guess it's an entire day of event, I took a look at the agenda. You know, I think it's pretty standard events for what the LGBTQ plus community puts on. And so as long as I guess it's within the guardrails of the law and what the city is comfortable using its space for, then it will go on.
Yep.
I personally do have one tiny issue with the event. You know, I guess maybe as part of a communication banter, I'll ask you the question. When you think of the term prom, what do you think about?
Probably the most uncomfortable night of my life, personally. I was not a cool kid in high school, but I guess like a dance. I don't know. Like that's.
So you said two key things. One was high school, and the other was a dance. And I think on the agenda it says all ages are welcome to that prom. And so I think as a parent, whether I have a heterosexual child or you know, one that belongs to the LGBTQ plus community, that would be something I would be a little bit concerned about. Why do we need an all ages prom? It seems to me that you would want to limit that to a specific age group, either over 18 or under 18.
Makes a lot of sense. The other thing I noticed, they will not have the drag queen story hour. I guess it was how it was marketed to City Manager Deitch. She put out an email to the City Council on Friday that told them basically, hey, this is going forward, but with this one caveat. So I guess they had some negotiations. They discussed it for a while, according to that email and discussions I've had with Dr. Misty Schneiderwind, Apologies if I massacred your name again. But I guess all's well that ends well. And we will hopefully after this story, it'll be over until June when we cover that. Next story, and one that I'm really excited about as a lover of market competition. Live Oak Fiber is going to be they're 50% done with their rollout of their $145 million. First of all, $145 million to dig holes and put fiber in.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it makes sense how much fiber they're laying, how many people you got to hire. Anyway, they're about halfway done is what they say, and they expect to be done in our area, especially the Valparaiso area, in the next 60 to 90 days, which means that in Valparaiso and Western Niceville, you could be getting whatever it is, 2 gigabytes. Look, man, I'm not an internet guy. But it's supposed to be real fast, and it's supposed to be about $20 cheaper than it's supposed to be twice as fast and $20 cheaper than Cox Cable, which is the group that's had the monopoly here for what, like the last 40 years, 30 years, however long the internet's been around.
Yeah, so this might be the most important or interesting thing I'm going to say today. But Cox actually lowered their internet for existing clients, and I think it's in response to Live Oak coming in. So if you haven't gotten an email from Cox or you haven't gotten a phone call from Cox about lowering your bill, I would reach out to them. I think they're trying to get ahead of it. We don't have Live Oak at my house or connectivity yet, so we still have Cox. So we appreciate it, at least in this short term, that our bill is going to be less. And it was non-contractual, which was pretty cool too. So they were locking in the rate, I think, for 2 years without a contract. So I may have some of that wrong, but I think I'm pretty close to spot on with that. But I would definitely call Cox and check it out. And I think Live Oak coming to town is great. I know it has been painful for the city. And I know it has been hard for some local residents when water lines or gas lines are nicked and all of a sudden their utilities are down for a day or two. But I think once we get past sort of the speed bumps of getting it in, those negative memories will fade away and people will just be happy to have a second choice of internet provider. And so that's good. Little Niceville, two choices now.
Yeah, I was actually able to speak to the chief revenue officer, the CRO,
Nice.
at Live Oak about just that the number of hits that they've had on water and sewer lines, and it's of course not fun, but they're according to him trying to get them down as fast as possible. The other interesting thing that I would note is that they typically have kind of a little bit of a complaint section for the number of pipes hit every city council meeting.
Yeah.
But back in February, I had this was like way back in my brainstem, and I just I remember something about this. And so listen to the public works director at City Niceville say they don't have maps. The Live Oak has not been provided with really accurate mapping as to where this stuff actually is by the city, because the city doesn't really know. And
Sure.
So hopefully everybody will take this opportunity, right, to find out where these things are, map them really well, and then hopefully not have this problem again. But ultimately, once they're done digging, it's pretty much over unless a third company comes in.
Yeah, this is a standard challenge for small towns that have grown over time, right? You have, we didn't have large communities getting built at once for the most part. A lot of the city kind of grew with time, and your neighbor's house might be 20 years older or younger than yours, and so yeah, the lines and how things were run, weren't mapped in a great way. And then, there's some shared responsibility for how you find where those things are, and, the spraying in people's yards and determining where those utilities are buried. And, there's going to be some errors that happen with that as well, that we're all humans. But like I said, I think once we're past sort of this, the installation period, people are going to be relatively happy to have multiple choices and for internet, and we won't remember the issues.
Hooray, capitalism, my friends.
That's right. Hooray.
Speaking of capitalism, Eglin Federal Credit Union has rolled out a new program with the Okaloosa County School District where they're trying to teach financial literacy to students. It's part of a mandatory coursework or framework that the state has pushed down for financial literacy. So Eglin Federal has taken the bull by the horns on this one and started to roll out its curriculum in the Okaloosa County School District. And I mean, I know you're big into this. I'm really excited about this because I didn't really learn about personal finance, I would say. I think I got some in high school, but I think that was the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, I think Okaloosa County does a fairly good job of, defending the arts, teaching, entrepreneurship courses or like, what's historically been called home ec or lifestyle courses. And I think the state has done a good job of supporting those as well. And I think we could all pretty much understand that, financial literacy is something that's sort of lacking. And so for a partnership like this to occur and the development of some curriculum, I think it's great. And I think it's something exciting for the community. I don't think we fully know yet, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, like at what age groups this is going to roll out for. I mean, it's primarily for high school, right?
It's all high school. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good.
I'm excited because I think one of the things that we've really lost out on in the last like 30 years is like a cost benefit analysis of college. Now, I'm big college guy because I don't know if you've noticed in our friendship, but I have no upper body strength. And so the trades are not really an option for me. But to have somebody help you do the cost benefit analysis of, if I go to super duper private university and spend $100,000 in tuition every year and get an underwater basket weaving degree, that may not pay out. And I think that having somebody sit down and teach you how to do that and say, if I go to this university and I get a business degree and then I do the thing that I love, the underwater basket weaving or what have you, then all of a sudden you got a viable business plan where you can pay back the loans that you might have or not have loans at all. And I think that there's a little bit of practicality that guys like me typically miss. Because I'm like, everybody needs to take a philosophy class. Everybody needs to take a statistics. I'm big into gen ed because I think that's part of a well-rounded citizen that's useful to the country, right? But also the $200,000 of debt thing is kind of a bummer and I think should be avoided.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that's been at the forefront of everyone's mind over the last couple of years, just with the rise of student loans and student loan debt being in the media and talked about heavily in the media. I think parents are responsible for a lot of that too, right? Having those conversations. But I'm glad to see Eglin Federal Credit Union at the local level, along with Okaloosa County and the school system, doing something and to play their part and to help out with education in this arena. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Moving on to our fourth story of the day, kind of a short story, just more of an update. I just wanted really honestly for you guys to know that this was happening and that we're getting some forward motion on this trial. But Dylan Deshaen, the accused killer of Mike Ledford, who you'll remember was the owner of the Mayahana food truck and was 20 over there on Bayshore, was in court for a brief hearing. Essentially, they decided, hey, you're going to get your mental health evaluation and we'll see you back in court in June. So slow progress coming in this case. So we'll see what happens next. But essentially, mental health evaluation upcoming for Dylan Deshaen.
Yeah, I think it's not 100% clear which way his lawyers are going to go in their defense of him. And clearly we don't know the whole story. There were only two people involved and one side of it's not here to tell it. But, in standard trials, we've watched enough television to know that you have a couple of defenses, whether it's, self-defense or whether it's, you're not mentally well. And so I think the his lawyer's doing what he can to represent him well, and you can kind of see what's happening slowly, bit by bit.
Absolutely. Niceville's police chief had some blowback on social media this week, which I'm not so certain he cares about. But
probably not.
Probably not. He has announced a speed enforcement campaign to take place April 24th through 26th. So as I look at the calendar on the 15th, 9 days from now, he will basically from, I believe it's Government Avenue in the west, all the way over to Rocky Bayou in the east. He will be launching a speed enforcement all hands on deck campaign to get everybody that is speeding even a little bit in that 2-day period. And he's hoping to enlist Department of Transportation, so Highway Patrol, County Sheriff's Office. And he says he already has Valparaiso PD on board for that. So that's part one. Watch out. Don't be speeding 24th, 25th, and 26th. But he also said that he wanted the Niceville City Council to lobby General Garrity over at the Air Force Base and ask him to stop this 100% ID check thing because it's going to back up traffic. And I sympathize with him because traffic's already pretty bad. But I don't view General Garrity as the most movable of individuals. And I think that's probably part and parcel of being a general is you're used to, I say you do.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know that the military always trumps and wins, right? So I don't know if that's really an argument that you want to try to, hill you want to die on type of thing. I think most of those 100% ID checks happen sort of during off the peak hours. Most people who are going into the military base during peak hours are folks who are going there to work, and they don't have a whole gang of people in the car with them that every ID needs to be checked. But I don't know the context in which he made that comment, but I'm sort of in your camp where I don't think that's as big of a deal as maybe he's saying, and if we all have a little bit more traffic because we're trying to keep our military base safe, I think that's something we can all deal with and be fine with. The speeding thing is interesting. I would probably argue that we do have a little bit of a speeding problem in Niceville, specifically on John Sims. But we got a lot of lights in those particular areas that they're going to be patrolling. I would guess, and some of my friends in Blue Water Bay would probably agree with me that most of the speeding is being done over by Fred Grandin Park, where there are no lights as you leave Blue Water. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to expand it or because I'm pretty certain that's all county, right? So Okaloosa County patrols that. I don't know if they're going to look to get the county involved in that stretch. Definitely, there's a lot of speeding getting done there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect storm of fast highway plus just enough density, people pulling on to the road from the side roads to make it really dangerous. But it doesn't feel like it, right? And so you're at 60, 65 miles an hour in a 45 zone before you know it. And I would say, yeah, there is speeding in Niceville City proper, right? But it can't be as fast because what are there, like 12 lights in between the Rocky Bridge and the Valparaiso? Maybe not 12, maybe 8.
There's a fair amount.
And so, yeah, as far as the Eglin ID thing, I mean, what the general says goes, right? Because something like 66%, 66 cents out of every dollar made in Okaloosa County comes through the base. And so that's not the guy that you want to mess with.
Right.
But finally, for our kicker today, 7th group had their, I think, 3rd annual Savage Loop, which is a 43.4 mile run around the western half of the Chocahachie Bay. Not for me.
Not for me either.
Yeah, I am not a savage. I would say I'm pretty like pedestrian or milk toast. We'll say that I am trying to run more, not that much more. Maybe run 43.4 miles in a month is kind of my goal at this point.
My question is someone chasing them, or they're just deciding to run this thing?
So they are doing it for a charity that is similar to like a Make-A-Wish in northeastern Ohio, where some of the guys are from. And so every year they do this, they raise the money, send it up that way. So it's for a good cause. It's just like the most like physically fit individuals you've ever met in your entire life doing it. And so I don't want to be a victim of the Savage Loop. And so therefore I will be sitting it out.
Yeah, is it too early in the show to go to buying and selling? Because I'm selling running 40 plus miles.
Yeah, I hard sell. We need to have like a button. It's like
hard sell.
But yeah, so anyway, that happened this past weekend. So nothing to worry about. People that are not wanting to run or be roped into a long run, you're safe until May 25th when the gate to gate takes place. 4.4 miles of fun on Eglin Air Force Base. So be ready for that if you are ready to run. And from here, we're going to have the big topic, our big discussion that we have.
Let's do it
every week. And this week, here's basically the idea, right? We have a two-legged stool here in Okaloosa County, and I think that we probably are both going to agree on this, but maybe how is going to be a little bit different. We have the military and we have tourism. And the military, of course, is the biggest piece of our economy. Roughly $66 out of every buck comes from that. Tourism is most of the rest of that. So how should we diversify? Should we diversify? How should we diversify? And what would that look like? I'll tell you real quick. I think the answer is an absolutely yes. It's always good to have more diverse industries in the area. But Paul, initial thoughts?
I mean, I think we're trying. If you look at it from a county perspective, they've got the land up near I-10 that they want to bring in some bigger businesses to our area. I think it's harder in Niceville and Valpy just because we don't have a lot of land availability. But I would say, the college is definitely trying to do some good things around very specific topics or majors like nursing and some aeronautical type stuff. But again, that would be more so for the base. But yeah, I mean, I think any healthy economy would like to have more diversity than less. And when it comes to, domains that make a decent amount of money, you got military, you got tourism, and the third one is probably small business in regards to not just like the restaurants and things that we have, but also the lawyers, the doctors, the dentists, and those type of folks running small businesses in our community. And I think if you quizzed our folks in town, they probably would say some of those we need more of. I know a lot of the veterinarians, for example, aren't taking new patients. And so there's arenas like that where there seems to be room for expansion in Niceville and for us to have more choices, not less. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll turn it around on you a little bit. Like what type of jobs would you like to see come here that aren't here?
I am really excited about the Shoal River Ranch up near Crestview, to the east of Crestview. It's a huge property the county purchased maybe 8 or 10 years ago, a long while ago. They're just starting to get the One Okaloosa Economic Development Corporation is just starting to bring people in. They brought in a, those big cylinders that they put on like telephone poles that are like for power and stuff.
Yeah.
Transformers, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
They build those, right? And I'm not like passionate about electric transformers, as you can tell, because I didn't know what the word was. But the idea that we can build a manufacturing base in the north end of the county, I don't think will pay huge dividends for Niceville, but I do think it'll pay huge dividends for Okaloosa County. And I also think that the knock-on effect, right, is that you're bringing more people in that are getting decent jobs, but not like $200,000 a year jobs, right? You have to build more housing. And you have to be more strategic about it, which means that we can bring more housing online because we have more people that are in that middle to middle upper income range that can afford to buy some of that property outright and therefore give an economy of scale for that housing. And I think that's kind of the big problem right now is that our industries are the military, which is really well paying in terms of, for example, base housing, right? Sure. Everybody gets a base housing stipend. It's relatively similar for everybody from the E1 to the general of the Air Force Base. It's within 150% for the top end to the bottom end. And so you have like a flat pay fee. And so when there's more diversity in that economy, more people that are doing manufacturing jobs or technical jobs, or even, thought jobs, white collar jobs, stuff like that. Whenever you diversify it from just the base, I think that gives a little more wiggle room in different arenas that currently just don't have them, right? Like you can't really rent out a place for less than whatever base housing is. It doesn't make a whole lot of economic sense,
right.
Unless the place is a total dump.
Right.
And my hope is that, we see a bunch of diversity in this area. Like I don't want to see, 6 transformer places, but having one is awesome. Having, somebody that's making jet engine parts is another great one. And somebody that's putting together tires, and somebody that has a, advertising agency. I think having all those jobs and making Okaloosa County face the north a little bit, for lack of a better term,
sure,
is a net benefit for everybody. Because I think as Crestview rises, the rest of the county is going to benefit.
Yep. And then you have Freeport and Walton County, and, we're all sort of in the same boat together. And maybe that's the analogy I should run with, is like, I think when you have a diverse local economy with differing ways that people can use their skills, the tide increases, and it's good for everybody. Right, the boats go up for everyone. So
perfect. I think we've solved it. I'll let the county commissioners know, and
we have
just
to have
take
some
over.
patience. We have to have some patience, because a lot of this just takes time, and naturally just heads in one direction or the other.
And it's incredibly frustrating for guys like me that want to see it done yesterday. But it's nice to see. I mean, when I got here 8 years ago, the city of Crestview and Okaloosa County would never talk to each other because they hated each other so much. Like the elected officials, the staff, everybody. And now they all work together, and you can see how it's borne fruit in Crestview. It's just incredible. Big ups to JB Witten, the mayor over there, and Tim Bolduc, who I can't say enough good things about. They've made all the difference by having that change in government and then working with the county. Anyway, coming up this week, we have 3 really interesting events, developments that are going to take place this week. Later today, Florida Polytechnic University, which is actually the state's newest university, didn't know that, out there in Lakeland, is going to pick its new president. Their initial president, their first president, is retiring, and so they have 5 finalists. One of those finalists is Dr. Devin Stevenson, who's currently, of course, the president of our Northwest Florida State College. And so keep an eye open for what might happen. We're going to be putting out a story as soon as we find out the answer to who's going to be the next president at Florida Poly. But this also means that, Dr. Stevenson has put his name out there with good reason. I mean, the guy's had a ton of success, right?
This would be a huge loss for us. I mean, he has transformed Northwest Florida State College and has done lots of fantastic things in regards to the growing of that school. But maybe this is what he does. Maybe this is what he does. He goes into new places and he grows them and explodes them. And this is maybe what's good for Florida Polytechnic as sort of a startup school. And maybe it gives Dr. Stevenson the challenge he's looking for next. But yeah, it would be a bit of a loss for us, for sure.
Something like, I think, 50% growth in enrollment over the last 5 or 6 years, or 7 or 8 years. Not to mention several national championships in various sports. Expansion of the airframe and power plant school that started up here, bringing in some 4-year degrees. You go, dog.
They're about to have a residence hall.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't something.
I went to high school here. I never thought back then it was OW. We never once thought it would, 1, be a college or a university, and 2, ever have people living on campus. It's crazy.
Man, and the games are fun. And just being on campus is fun.
Yeah.
It's a cool vibe. And I don't know. I'm proud of it. I'm proud to live here and go to those basketball games and those baseball games. And, I pull for the team. It's fun, man. It's just a great place to be. And I think he has a lot to do with that. So, Dr. Stevenson, no matter what happens, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Number two, the audit results for the city came back. They got a clean bill of health. One thing they had was a repeat finding about capital assets tracking, essentially not tracking them well. As a veteran, a sufferer of audits, my friend, thoughts on a city audit with a clean bill of health?
Yeah, I mean, I would have expected this to come back fairly clean, just like it did. They're running a pretty good ship over there. But any government entity of almost any size has trouble managing their capital assets and the different things that they are in charge of or purchased over time. And this finding is far less concerning than maybe the Pentagon not being able to find billions of dollars, which we know it's had its own trouble doing.
Always blows my mind, like when they lost that nuclear weapon in North Carolina, like back in the 60s. Do you remember that? Yeah, they like dropped one off of a B-52 or something that was in transit, and it just like left. It's gone. They found it eventually, but I often think about that.
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's like just old trucks and like, just, different parts and random things, and it only gets worse the bigger the government entity is. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's pretty much, status quo for large enterprises.
Perfect. Last thing on my list for coming up this week is Vendor Fair at Third Planet Brewing this weekend. Your boys and girls at Mid-Bay News will be there. We will have prizes, and we will have T-shirts, which I'm very excited about. They're gonna be really clever because I made them, and gosh darn it, I'm clever.
Is it all weekend? What day is it?
It is Saturday.
Give us the particulars.
Saturday from 10 to 3 at Niceville's Third Planet Brewing, which is next to Walmart. I bring up the Walmart because you might have to park there.
Might be that busy.
It's like always that busy, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a bad thing. But I'm just saying, like, get there early, be there, be square, and be there at 9 a.m. For all the cool stuff that is going to go down, including, I guess, if you want to come talk to us, hassle me, heckle me, ask questions, come up with story ideas.
Say you're doing a good job or a bad job.
Or a bad job. I'm open to critique.
Constructive criticism.
No, it doesn't even have to be. You can just heckle. That's okay. I am used to it. I'd like to think that I have relatively thick skin, though that may not be completely true. Just know that if you come and heckle me, it will hurt me forever.
You'll be fine.
Moving on to buying and selling. You went first last week, so I will go first this week. I am buying LGBTQ acceptance in Northwest Florida. I think that there were a couple of very loud voices at the city council meeting last week, but the thing that really just kind of blew my mind was the ratio of responses from the LGBTQ/ally community online. Very, very much not the ratio I was expecting, which I guess says more about me than it does about the ratio itself. So I was pleasantly surprised to see people being kind. So I really did appreciate that. Selling. Very angry small groups of people forcing policy decisions. And this is a very narrow one. But as a guy that's been to specifically Okaloosa County meetings, and then also Niceville City Council meetings, Valparaiso Commission meetings, you usually see a group of like 40 people show up for something and they're really mad. And it is hard to remember that may not be the majority opinion in the city. Sure. So chickens, for example, I don't know why I have to I think it's like a rule on this, like that I have to bring up chickens. So we had, in Valparaiso, group of 30, 40 people show up every month for 5 or 6 months, pretty angry about not being allowed to have chickens in city limits. They took a vote, and the vote was really, really close. And it was never that way in the city commission chambers. It was always, 10-1 pro-chicken people versus anti-chicken people. So just one of those things about negative response bias that I had seemed to have forgotten. But yeah, so Very angry small groups of people forcing policy decisions. I will come up with an acronym for that at some point.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
And yeah, EASVSGPF.
Nah. Just let it go.
Yeah. All right.
I'll
You're
do
up,
mine.
man.
All right, I'm just selling the LGBTQ thing because I think it's a non-story. They were going to be able to rent it in the first place, and I think the city council had to do what the city council had to do so that we didn't get sued. So I'm selling that as a story, period. And moving on to my buy. So on Sunday, April 21st at 11:30 at Christ Our Redeemer Catholic Church out in Blue Water, they are doing their 2024 Holy Smokes barbecue. There'll be catered sides, all sorts of food, a silent auction and raffle, a lot of activities for the kids. And they're raising money for a needy family in the community. And I think that's awesome. That's what a small town is really about. And so there should be a good group of folks there. Please come try some incredible barbecue and maybe give a little to a needing family. So that's my buy.
And the homeboy Paul Sjoberg and John Salmon, homeboys, will be participating.
Yeah.
And so I need you to go in there and stack the deck with ballots for their offering.
People sleep on Chef John Salmon because he's primarily in real estate now, but the barbecue is going to be on point. And I hope you guys have been enjoying his pieces on Mid-Bay News, his food pieces and his real estate pieces.
If you haven't tried his Jamaican jerk patty recipe, I'm here to tell you, it's spicy. I don't usually eat spicy for breakfast. I'm not a spicy breakfast guy. I'm a sweet cereal guy. It was amazing. It changed me.
He's got some bangers for sure.
Only bangers.
Only bangers.
Only bangers. Anyway, that's what we have for you this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week when we talk about more stuff that is going on here in Niceville, Okaloosa County, and really not further afield because we don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
See you later.
Be nice, Niceville. Peace out.